Thank you for attending our session here about the Western Montana LGBTQ Community Center. My name is Andy Nelson. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I serve as the operations administrator here at the center. I'm also the board secretary. And Stephanie, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Raven, pronouns she, her, hers, and I'm a board member at the center for about a year now. So yeah, we can get going with our presentation. So I think we're gonna have a slideshow popping up in a moment, but I'll just start by reading off our mission. So the center is an open and affirming environment for peoples of all sexual orientations and gender identities. We empower our community through education, advocacy, and collaborative networking. We strive to be Western Montana's voice for the LGBTQ plus community and allies. We are proud to be a volunteer-based, community-funded organization where we strive to make our little corner of Montana a better place to live.
That's right, that's what we're all about. The center, if you don't know, is located here in Missoula, right downtown on Higgins, 127 North Higgins Avenue, right above the artist shop. We're on the second floor. And we actually just celebrated our 20th year here in Missoula, so that's kind of exciting.
Let's see. I'm going to see if we can get that PowerPoint going.
There it is.
Great, awesome.
Okay, Julia, and you can go ahead and skip to the third slide. There you go.
And
perfect. Okay, one of our big things we do at the center is we offer peer-to-peer support groups, and we have a lot of them currently going on right now, probably the most we've ever had, which is so awesome. And typically, most of these groups would meet in person here at the center. But as you all know, we're in a global pandemic. So what happened back in March, early April, was all these groups transitioned to meeting on Zoom like we're doing now. And in these groups, we have 12-step programs, including our Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous meetings. We also have the men's group, the trans, intersex, and non-binary group, the LGBTQIA plus allies, which is open to anybody, whether you're in the LGBTQ community or not, just looking to become a better ally. Maybe you have a child in transition or a gay brother that's coming out. That's one of the newer ones. We also have the women's group, as well as, yeah. I think that's all of them. All right, go ahead to the next slide. Okay. Stephanie, you want to take this one?
Sure. So we have several events that we do throughout the year. So a couple, it's been obviously a little bit different this year with the current circumstances and keeping large gatherings down, but we typically do a black and white ball every spring, and that's one of our largest fundraisers. So during that, we do a silent auction with auctioning off products from local businesses, and ISCSM, which is a local performance group that does drag performances, will often perform, and we collaborate with them. We're actually currently working on developing a virtual alternative to our black and white ball. It got delayed this year, and so in a few weeks, we're gonna be doing something online. We also do a community picnic typically in the summer. We have several events, potluck events that we do throughout the year as well. So some of them are just small small potlucks. We also do a queer giving event around Thanksgiving typically. So that's another thing we're working on, trying to figure out if there's a way we can still have some sort of gathering around that time, whether it be online or social distanced. And then we also do some just small things throughout the year, like First Fridays we tend to participate in, and we feature a different queer artist in our community space every month for that. So that's a really great way to just come mingle and meet different folks in the community. We also have a lot of social events that are typically hosted at Imagination Brewing. So sometimes it's bingo nights. Sometimes they're centered around holidays that are going on. Yeah, so obviously things have changed a bit in the current time. So not all of these in-person events are going on, but we're still trying to do as much as we can to support the community online as well. So that's also where a lot of the groups Andy was just talking about have come in too, to still have some sort of connection, even though we can't all be together in person.
Right. All right, I wanted to just talk a little bit about our work with the census this year. I'm sure you've heard of it, and I hope you took the census because now it's over. But as I'm sure you know, the census takes place once every 10 years, and it's to count all the folks living in the US. And we were lucky enough to be funded by the Montana Nonprofit Association through a grant to help push this advocacy work to encourage folks to take the census because the LGBTQ plus community is what they call a hard to count population, meaning for some reason we go uncounted. And that could be due to many different factors, socioeconomic status being one possibly. Other groups that are considered hard to count are like Native American people, other social minorities, children are one. Parents forget to count them, and students, like many of you. A lot of you might not know, like, did your parents count you? I don't know. Do I need to count myself? I don't know. So students tend to be missed quite frequently. But anyway, as of October 15th, the census is now done, and all of the facts that were tracked will be sent into the federal government to be counted. All right, and now we're going to talk about our Pride Mass. Yeah. Some little things, which you might or might not have seen around town. This is something we're really proud of, and something that's been able to keep us active and engaged, as well as the community and volunteers during this crazy world we're living in. So back in mid-May, we were trying to think of something to do for Pride Month. And we were like, well, masks are becoming a thing, and I think they're here to stay. And also, my coworker David read this news story about these two gay men over in Poland, which maybe you've heard of. They're facing some very anti-LGBTQ discrimination right now, specifically in Poland. But anyway, these two gay guys decided to just start handing out these little rainbow masks on the street, and it turned into a big international news story. So we were like, well, maybe we could also do something like that. So what we did was I got a hold of my friend Ariel Noctegal, who was at the time making masks as a side project, and she was all for it. And so she started making masks at home for us, for rainbow masks. And we decided we want anybody to have one that needs it. That's the priority. Safety is priority, whether you can afford to donate or not. So our mission was to send them out for free if folks are able to donate back to continue funding the project. That would be great. If not, cool. And as of now, Julia, if you want to move on to the next slide.
And I do want to mention too that we also partnered with the Montana Two-Spirit Society and the Gay Health Task Force on this project. So it was a collaboration between those three organizations, and they're both presenting here as well.
Yep, they'll be on tomorrow at 11 o'clock. So check them out too. Yeah, it was a joint effort between the 3 nonprofits to do this. Okay, so as of now, we've sent out 2,500 of these masks. I'm just really stoked about it, to about 45 states. We're nearing 50, and to 15 different countries. However, the vast majority, probably 75% of the masks have stayed within Montana, which is great. And if you'd like one, we're happy to send one to you. Just shoot us an email at hello@gaymontana.org. We'd love for you to have one of our masks.
Yeah, it's been really cool to also see, as you saw in the past couple slides, all the photos. So we've been having a lot of folks sharing them wearing their rainbow pride masks on social media too. So I think it's just been a really cool way to represent the community, you know, in a unique way during these times.
Definitely. And a big part of what we do here at the center is provide resources. So we're not going to go into like too deep of detail on specific resources, but like say you were looking for a gay-friendly lawyer, who do you call? Call us and we'll figure out who might fit you or where to go. We're not going to offer you legal advice, but maybe an attorney that could help out. Or like a queer-friendly medical professional, things like that. So if you ever have questions about really anything, feel free to contact us here at the center. Our website is gaymontana.org, which has a ton of resources, specifically like health-related. You can find a lot of that on our website. You can also call us 406-543-2224 or email us at info@gaymontana.org.
And if any of those groups that were mentioned earlier, the peer-to-peer groups are of interest to you, you can also find some more information on the website or just shoot an email to the info@gaymontana.org if you want to get a link for the Zoom meetings. So those are typically once a month for each of those.
Mm-hmm. Yep. We're always looking for new people to join, so definitely please consider hanging out with us and volunteering. If you're ever looking for a volunteering opportunity, we'll find one for you. Also, social media, everyone's got one now. We're on the Facebook and the Instagram as well, so check us out there.
And that's also a great way if you just follow there. It's a great way to stay in the loop whenever we're doing events or fundraisers or meetups of any kind. We try to make sure to post those. So if that's of interest to you, just following us on one of these pages is a good way to stay informed about when that stuff is happening.
Yep. And as Stephanie mentioned earlier when we were talking about events, we are planning a virtual black and white ball, hopefully in mid to late November, as well as something for our queer giving celebration, which we normally do every year on Thanksgiving Day. We need to get in touch with the health department and figure out what that's going to look like, but we're definitely not going to have a social gathering at Burn Street Bistro like we normally do. But hopefully we can come up with something. Okay, and if anybody has any questions, now's your time.
Thanks so much for your presentation. We have a question from Missy. What was that email we can contact to receive a Pride mask again?
Sure. Can I type it in the chat? Will that be visible to everybody?
I think so.
Okay.
No, it won't actually.
Oh, it won't. Okay.
If you say it out loud, I can type it in the chat.
Okay, thanks, Julia. It's hello, HELLO, at gaymontana.org. hello@gaymontana.org. Yeah, just hit us up, send us a message, just say you'd like one of the rainbow masks, send us your address, and we'll either have a volunteer drop it off on your doorstep if you live here in Missoula, or we'll mail it to you if you're out of town.
So I have another question from Amalu, how do I best support my sister who told me she is bisexual, especially if she is fearful of how my mom will respond?
Great. Stephanie, do you want to tackle this first and then I'll add on?
Sure. So one thing is, you know, if you want to get more support for just how to be there for your sister during this process, the allies group might be a good fit for you to participate in. So that's one of our monthly group meetups that we have. I think also just, you know, being there to listen to and support your sister. You obviously care about being there for them in that capacity is really helpful. And just standing by their side. I think, you know, everyone's coming out process is very different, and it often is not, you know, we have this idea of coming out being one moment or one day where you make a big announcement, and often it's people coming out over the series of years even to various groups as they feel comfortable. So being that person that, even if you're the only person in your family right now that knows that your sister is bisexual, you know, you're already providing support for them in that way. But yeah, for some more specific resources, you can shoot us an email, or attending that allies group might be a really nice option for you too.
Great. I was going to add on to that, but I think you covered that pretty well. Thanks, Stephanie.
And I have another question from Penny. Do we have a resource like this in Helena?
So Helena specifically doesn't have a community center. However, Big Sky Pride, which is our statewide pride organization, their organization is located in Helena. Kev Ham is the director. So if you're looking for maybe just to get involved with the queer community in Helena, maybe contact Big Sky Pride and they can potentially connect you with resources there. But as far as this, like a nonprofit community center like we are, there isn't one in Helena, unfortunately. Great Falls now has one, as well as Billings, which is great. 3 LGBT centers in a state as small as Montana is pretty awesome. Oh, and Kalispell, yes, the Glacier Queer Alliance in Kalispell. 4, wow.
That's awesome. That makes me so happy. And we have a question from Samantha. I was wondering if there's a high rate of addiction in the LGBTQ plus community, and if so, what is the thought on this, or what can we do about it?
Yeah, so there is a higher rate of addiction in the LGBTQ plus community compared to general population. And so that's a couple of, that kind of back to the groups again, that's part of why we offer a couple groups such as an Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous group through the center. It's where you can specifically be part of a group that is LGBTQ focused. What was the rest of the question?
Yeah, just what are your thoughts on the subject, and if there's anything that we can do to help or take action?
Yeah, I think, you know, part of how, as the center, part of how we're trying to help and take action is having those groups, and just thoughts on, you know, why that might be is a lot of, you know, there's a lot of different dynamics to that. So sometimes LGBTQ plus folks lose support of friends or family, even from a young age. There's also just can be more stress around being an LGBTQ person in our society. So I think a lot of those factors can set people up to use different substances, whether it be alcohol or drugs of different kinds, to self-treat. So that's one piece of it. I don't know if you want to speak to it a little bit more, Andy.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there is a high rate of drug abuse and alcoholism in the LGBTQ community, similar to many other marginalized groups out there. unfortunately. And you will see these parallels within marginalized groups. And like Stephanie touched on, that might be due to fear of one wanting to truly live oneself, but feeling like they can't. So these are their coping mechanisms that they use. And I'm really proud of the fact that we do have the 12-step programs here that we do. I suffer from alcoholism myself. I got sober a little over 2 years ago. And some of my other gay friends in the community were like, it'd be really cool to start an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting at the center. And I thought, yeah, because even if you're within, you know, just a regular AA meeting as a queer person, you're not completely comfortable sharing certain things with that crowd that you would be within a group of queer folks. Or anyway, I'm really happy that we started that here at the center. So.
And then we have a question from Gao. Do you offer HIV STD testing?
Yes, we do. So we partner with our friends at the Gay Health Task Force. That's actually the office I'm sitting in right now. They're just across the hall from the center. And we offer free HIV, syphilis, and hepatitis C testing. So if anybody's ever in need of those services, they can schedule an appointment with us at gayhealthtaskforce.org. Just go online and schedule an appointment. Click on which tests you'd like, if you like them all or just one, whatever. We'll get in touch with you and we'll make it happen. All the services are free.
Great.
And you don't have to be gay or trans or part of the LGBTQ community either. These services are open to anybody.
Great, thank you so much. I have a question from another audience member.
Sorry.
Can you offer any advice on how I might come out as non-binary to my father, who is 75 years old, stubborn, and very set in his old ways of thinking, and not as open-minded as I wish, while I can also stay safe?
Yeah, I think, again, coming out can look really differently for everybody. So without knowing more about your circumstance, it's hard to give particular advice and how your family member might respond. Sometimes it can be helpful for folks to bring a supportive ally with them. So if there's a friend or a family member that knows that you are non-binary and is able to come with you to speak with your dad, that can be helpful at times. Also, depending on the situation, you may feel more comfortable doing that over a phone or even a digital meeting like this rather than being there in person. So that could be different for, you know, different folks. Just from my personal experience, I actually did come out over the phone to my parents. And that was just what felt more comfortable to me. And then kind of back to the groups again, is we do have the TIN group, which is trans, intersex, and non-binary. So that could be a good resource for you too, if you'd like to talk to specifically to other non-binary folks and what their experiences around coming out might have been.
Any more questions? Got 3 minutes left, it looks like.
Yeah, just got a question. Is there any advice that you would give for potential counselors working with this community?
Absolutely. So we have a pretty good list of queer-friendly counselors here in town. So if you are interested personally or have a friend that is, just send us an email and we'll figure out how to connect you. Also on campus is the clinical psychology department, I believe is what it's called. And they have a sliding scale fee basis, which is pretty convenient for a lot of folks. So that's, if you are a student, that's a good place to look into. And we have some friends in the community that work there as well. So I would recommend them too.
I also was just thinking, kind of back to the other question. I believe it's called They, Them, Theirs. It's a little comic book. Do you know about that, Andy?
No, I've never heard of it.
I can try to pull it up, or Julia's nodding, so I don't know if you know the comic book, but maybe we can share it in the resources. But it's a really short comic. So my partner is actually non-binary as well, and they have found that comic really helpful. So we moved here from Portland a couple years ago and found that just integrating into the Montana workforce, not everyone was as aware or familiar with using non-binary pronouns. So my partner actually bought that comic and brought it to their workspace. And if people had questions or were unsure or continuing to mix up their pronouns, they would say, hey, do you want to, if you're interested, you can borrow this comic and take it home and read it. And it's quick and easy read. It takes like 10 to 15 minutes to get through, but it's a really nice introduction to using non-binary pronouns and why that is important to do for people who are non-binary and what that means to them. So there's also little resources like that out there that if it's hard for you to say the words yourself or to express them articulately, you can sometimes just hand somebody a little something to educate themselves as well.
Cool. I'm excited to read the comic book.
Well, that is our time, I believe. Thank you all so much for coming. This was a great informative session, and I hope you all enjoyed.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a good afternoon.